Welcome to ZenLight 8. What if everything society told you about success and happiness was a lie? Picture this. A man with no friends or just a tiny circle, standing tall with unshakable confidence. Sounds crazy, right? But what if the secret to true strength isn't in the crowd, but in the quiet? In this video, we're diving deep into why having fewer friends might just be your superpower. Ready to rethink everything you've been taught? Let's unlock the hidden power within you. The myth of many friends. Why society's definition of success might be holding you back. Imagine this. A room packed with people, laughter echoing off the walls, glasses clinking, and everyone's got a smile plastered on their face. It's the picture of success, right? The more friends you've got buzzing around you, the happier and more accomplished you must be. That's what society's been drilling into our heads since we were kids. Popularity is the golden ticket to a fulfilled life. But what if I told you that's a lie? What if the real path to unshakable confidence, the kind that doesn't bend or break no matter what life throws at you, isn't found in a crowd but in the stillness of being alone? Welcome to a truth most people never dare to question. Let's tear down this illusion together and see what's really on the other side. From the moment we're old enough to toddle into a playground, we're taught that having a big group of friends is the ultimate sign of winning at life. Think back to those early days. Didn't the kid with the swarm of playmates seem like the king of the sandbox? Teachers praised them, parents envied them, and the rest of us quietly wished we could be them. Fast forward to high school, and it's the same game. The popular crowd ruled the halls, their laughter louder, their stories bigger, their lives seemingly brighter. And now, as adults, we've swapped the playground for Instagram feeds and LinkedIn networks, chasing followers and likes like they're the modern-day measure of our worth. Society's script is clear: more friends, more connections, more noise equals more success. But here's the question that's been nagging at me, and maybe at you too: what if we've been sold a bill of goods? Let's peel back the layers of this belief, because it's so deeply woven into our culture that we rarely stop to examine it. We're conditioned to think that a bustling social life is the backbone of happiness. Movies show it, ads sell it, and even self-help books sometimes nudge us toward building our tribe, as if it's the cure for every insecurity. The message is relentless. If you're not surrounded by people clapping you on the back or lighting up your phone with texts, something's wrong with you. You're a failure, a loner, a misfit. But what if that's the real scam? What if this obsession with collecting friends is actually chaining us to a treadmill of exhaustion, leaving us weaker instead of stronger? Think about it for a second. How much energy do you pour into keeping up with a big social circle? There's the constant texting, the birthday parties you can't skip, the small talk that feels like a chore. You're juggling invites, dodging drama, and always wondering what they think of you. It's like you're auditioning for a role in your own life, hoping the audience doesn't boo you off the stage. And in today's world, social media's turned that pressure up to 11. You're not just performing for the people in the room, you're performing for the whole damn internet. Studies say the average person spends 2 to 3 hours a day scrolling, posting, liking, and refreshing, all for that sweet hit of validation. A like here, a comment there, and for a fleeting moment you feel on top of the world. But then it fades, and you're back to chasing the next one. It's a drug, and we're all hooked. Now, picture the flip side. Imagine a man sitting alone. Not lonely, not lost, just alone. No phone buzzing, no crowd clamoring for his attention. He's calm, steady, his face radiating a quiet strength you can't quite pin down. What's his deal? Society would call him a hermit, a weirdo, someone who's missing out. But what if he's the one who's figured it out? What if his secret isn't a Rolodex full of names or a packed weekend schedule, but the courage to step away from the noise and find something deeper? This isn't about rejecting people. It's about rejecting the lie that your worth hinges on how many of them are clapping for you. Let's dig into why this myth of more friends equals more success might be crumbling under scrutiny. First off, maintaining a large social circle for the sake of appearances is a full-time job. You're not just hanging out, you're managing expectations, smoothing over conflicts, and keeping up a version of yourself that fits the group. How often do you say yes to plans you don't even want just to avoid the guilt or the whispers? How many times have you laughed at a joke you didn't find funny or nodded along to an opinion you didn't share, all to keep the peace? That's not freedom, that's a performance. And the second you slip up, a missed call, a blunt comment, a night you'd rather spend alone, the cracks start to show. Suddenly, you're not fun anymore. You're distant. You're weird. The approval you worked so hard for vanishes like smoke. Contrast that with the guy who doesn't play that game. He's got no friends, or maybe just one or two, and he's not sweating it. He's not running around trying to prove anything to anybody. Why? Because his confidence doesn't live in someone else's opinion. It's rooted inside him, built from the ground up in moments when it's just him and his thoughts. That's the kind of security society doesn't sell you on a billboard. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's unbreakable. While the rest of us are scrambling to keep the crowd happy, he's standing still, unshaken, because he doesn't need the crowd. Here's where it gets interesting. History backs this up. Look at the people who've changed the world, thinkers, writers, inventors. How many of them were the life of the party? More often than not, they were the ones who stepped away. Thoreau retreated to Walden Pond and came back with ideas that still echo today. Newton locked himself in a room during the plague and unraveled the laws of gravity. Even Jesus, say what you will about the theology, spent 40 days alone in the desert before shaking up everything. These weren't social butterflies flitting from one gathering to the next. They were people who dared to face the silence, to wrestle with their own minds, and emerged with a clarity most of us can only dream of. Solitude didn't weaken them, it forged them. So why are we so afraid of it? Why does the idea of having few or no friends send a shiver down our spine? Part of its conditioning, societies spent years hammering home that being alone is a punishment, not a privilege. We're wired to fear rejection, to see an empty room as a sign we've failed. But what if we've got it backward? What if the real failure is letting that fear drive us into a life of shallow connections, where we're too busy keeping up to ever really know ourselves? The truth is, solitude isn't the enemy. It's the arena where the strongest parts of you are built. When you strip away the chatter, the likes, the applause, what's left? Just you. And that's where the magic happens. Let's break it down. When you're alone, there's no one to impress, no one to mirror, no one to lean on. It's raw, it's uncomfortable, and yeah, sometimes it's scary. But it's also where you start to hear your own voice. Not the one you use to fit in, not the one you polish for the crowd, but the real one. The one that knows what you want, what you believe, what you're capable of. In those quiet moments, you're not just passing time, you're building something. Confidence that doesn't flicker when the room goes silent. Security that doesn't crack when the phone stops ringing. Strength that doesn't need a witness to stand tall. Now, I'm not saying you should ditch everyone and live in a cave. Human connection matters, and we'll get to that later. But what I am saying is that this obsession with racking up friends like their points on a scoreboard is a trap. It's a distraction from the real work of knowing yourself. Because here's the kicker. If you can't stand to be alone with you, how can you expect anyone else to stick around? The man with no friends or just a tiny circle isn't secure because he's got something to prove. He's secure because he's already faced the hardest test, himself. And he's still standing. So where does that leave us? Maybe it's time to rewrite the rules. What if success isn't about how many people know your name, but how well you know your own heart? What if happiness isn't a packed party, but a quiet night where you're at peace with the person in the mirror? Society's been loud about what it thinks we need. More friends, more noise, more validation. But the truth might be whispering something else entirely. The path to real confidence, the kind that nothing can shake, might just start when you stop counting heads and start listening to your own. Take a step back today. Turn off the notifications, skip the small talk, and sit with yourself for a minute. Ask, who am I when no one's watching? What do I want when no one's telling me what to want? It's not easy, it's not supposed to be. But in that space, away from the crowd, you might just find something society can't give you. A strength that's yours alone. And once you've got that, no amount of likes or empty friendships can take it away. So tell me, are you ready to stop chasing the lie and start building something real? The illusion of social validation. Why chasing approval is draining your soul. Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone, thumb flicking past a blur of perfectly filtered selfies, witty captions, and group shots glowing with happiness. A notification pops up, a like, a heart, a quick, "You're the best," from someone you barely know. For a split second, you feel it, that warm rush of being seen, of matching. But then it's gone, and you're back to refreshing, waiting for the next hit. Sound familiar? We've all been there, caught in this endless loop of chasing approval. Whether it's a double tap on a screen or a nod from the crowd. Society tells us this is the key to feeling good, to being somebody. But what if it's all a mirage? What if this relentless hunt for social validation is a treadmill that's wearing us down, keeping us hooked on everyone else's opinions instead of building something solid inside ourselves? Let's pull back the curtain on this illusion and see what's really at stake. From the time we're kids, we're wired to crave acceptance. It starts small, sharing a toy to win a smile, raising your hand in class to hear, "Good job." Fast forward to now, and that need's only grown, fueled by a world that's louder and more connected than ever. Social media's the megaphone, blasting the message that your worth is tied to how many people cheer you on. Post a photo, rack up the likes, and you're golden until the numbers stall and that sinking feeling creeps in. It's not just online either. Think about your last get-together. Did you catch yourself tweaking your laugh to fit the vibe, steering the conversation to land a few claps on the back? We're all playing the game, performing for an audience we hope will stamp us approved. But here's the kicker. That stamp never lasts. It's a drug with a half-life shorter than a TikTok trend, and we're hooked on the chase. Let's break this down, because it's a cycle so ingrained we barely notice it's running our lives. You wake up, check your phone. How many likes did that post get overnight? Not enough. Time to strategize the next one. At work, you're angling for a shout-out in the meeting. At the bar, you're tossing out stories, scanning faces for that flicker of admiration. It's exhausting, isn't it? You're always on, always tweaking, always wondering if you're measuring up. Studies back this up. People spend 2 to 3 hours a day on social platforms, chasing that dopamine hit of validation. 2 to 3 hours. That's a part-time job with no paycheck. Just a fleeting pat on the head that evaporates the second someone scrolls past. And even offline, it's the same grind. Keeping up with friends, dodging the guilt of a skipped invite, nodding along to keep the peace. You're running full speed, but where are you going? Now, imagine the cost of all this. Every minute you spend fishing for approval is a minute you're not spending on you. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole. Nothing sticks, and you're left emptier than when you started. The truth is, this need for outside validation is a trap. It's a leash that keeps you tethered to what everyone else thinks, yanking you back every time you dare to step out of line. One day, you're riding high because the likes are rolling in or the room's laughing at your joke. The next, you're spiraling because someone unfollowed you or tossed a backhanded comment your way. Your mood, your confidence, your sense of self, it's all dangling on strings other people can pull. That's not power. That's not security. That's a puppet show, and you're not the one holding the controls. Let's flip the script for a second. Picture someone who's opted out of this game. A woman sitting alone at a cafe, no phone in hand, just sipping her coffee and watching the world go by. She's not posting about it, not texting a play-by-play, not glancing around to see who's noticing her. She's just there, calm and steady, like a rock in a river. Society might label her a loner, someone who's missing the action. But what if she's the one who's free? What if her strength doesn't come from a flood of notifications or a packed contact list, but from a quiet certainty that doesn't need a spotlight to shine? That's the twist we're not taught to see. Real value, the kind that lasts, isn't borrowed from the crowd, it's built from within. So why do we keep chasing this illusion? Part of it's fear of being left out, of fading into irrelevance if the applause stops. We've been sold the lie that if we're not validated by others, we're nothing. It's a belief so baked into us that stepping away feels like jumping off a cliff. But let's look at what happens when you stay on that cliff, clinging to the edge. You're not just tired, you're fragile. One snub, one ignored message, one lukewarm like count, and the whole house of cards wobbles. How many times have you second-guessed yourself because the feedback didn't land? How many nights have you lain awake replaying a conversation, wondering if you said too much or too little? That's the price of outsourcing your worth. It's a roller coaster you can't get off, and the dips hit harder every time. Contrast that with the person who's let go of the chase. They're not scanning the room for approval or refreshing their feed for proof they matter. Why? Because they've tapped into something deeper, a sense of self that doesn't flicker with the wind. This isn't about arrogance or shutting people out. It's about knowing that your value isn't a negotiation. It's not up for vote. It's yours, forged in the moments when you stop performing and start being. And here's the wild part. That kind of strength doesn't just hold you up. It sets you free. Free from the need to please, free from the weight of every passing opinion, free to live on your terms instead of someone else's script. Let's talk about how this plays out in real life, because it's one thing to nod along and another to see the gears turning. Think about the last time you posted something online. Maybe it was a photo, a thought, a milestone. You hit share. And then what? Did you check back 5 minutes later? An hour later? Did your heart sink a little if the response was meh? That's the cycle in action, your happiness hinging on a handful of pixels. Now imagine not caring, not out of bitterness, but because you don't need it. Imagine walking into a room and not sizing up who's impressed, just showing up as you are. That's not weakness. That's a quiet rebellion against a system that thrives on keeping you hungry. History's full of people who got this. Look at the greats. Writers like Virginia Woolf, who wrestled with her mind in solitude and gave us words that still cut deep. Or scientists like Tesla, who ditched the small talk to chase ideas that lit up the world. They weren't collecting claps. They were building legacies from the inside out. Their validation didn't come from a crowd. It came from the work, from the knowing, from the refusal to let their worth be a popularity contest. And us? We're not all out to invent electricity, but we can borrow that blueprint. Stop running on the approval treadmill and start laying bricks for something real. So how do you break free? It's not about deleting your apps or ghosting your friends, though a little detox never hurts. It's about shifting the lens. Start small. Next time you're tempted to check for likes, pause, sit with that itch and ask, what am I really after here? Am I enough without this? It's awkward at first, like flexing a muscle you've never used. But over time, you'll feel it. A flicker of relief, a whisper of, I've got this. That's the seed of inner value taking root, growing into something no one can take away. You're not cutting ties, you're cutting the strings. Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing validation, you don't end up alone, you end up stronger. The people who matter stick around, drawn to the real you, not the polished mask. And the ones who don't, they fade out and you barely notice because your foundation's not built on their nods anymore. This isn't about isolation, it's about liberation. It's about trading a shaky, borrowed glow for a steady light that's all yours. So where does that leave you today? Maybe it's time to step off the treadmill. Let the notifications pile up, let the room go quiet, and see what's left when the noise dies down. You might be surprised. It's not emptiness waiting there, but a chance to meet yourself, unfiltered and unapologetic. That's where the real stuff lives, the value that doesn't need a cosign to stand tall. Society's sold you an illusion, but you don't have to buy it. Are you ready to stop running and start rooting yourself in something deeper? The choice is yours, and for once, it doesn't need anyone else's stamp to count. The power of solitude. Why being alone might be your greatest strength. Close your eyes for a second and picture this. A man sits alone on a hill, the wind rustling through the grass, no one around for miles. No phone, no chatter, just him and the vastness of his own thoughts. What do you feel when you see that? A pang of pity? A shiver of unease? Most of us have been taught to flinch at the word alone. It conjures up images of sadness, isolation, a life gone wrong. But what if we've got it all twisted? What if solitude isn't a curse to escape, but a gift to embrace? What if choosing to step away from the noise isn't loneliness in disguise, but the key to unlocking a power most people never find? A strength that's been hiding in plain sight all along. Let's dive into the deep end of this idea and see what's waiting beneath the surface. Society's got a loud opinion on this. Being alone is bad news. From the time we're kids, we're pushed to pair up, to play in packs, to never sit by ourselves at lunch. Find your people, they say, as if a crowd is the only thing keeping us afloat. And as adults, that drumbeat only gets louder. Fill your calendar, grow your network, keep the group chat buzzing. Solitude, that's for weirdos, outcasts, the ones who couldn't hack it. But here's where the story cracks open. Solitude isn't loneliness. They're not even cousins. Loneliness is a hollow ache, a yearning for connection you can't find. Solitude, that's a choice, a deliberate, powerful move to spend time with the one person you can't run from, yourself. And in that space, something incredible happens. Let's clear the fog on this, because the difference matters. Loneliness drags you down. It's the sting of a quiet phone or an empty room you didn't ask for. It's involuntary, a weight you carry. Solitude, though, that's you grabbing the reins. It's saying, I'm stepping away, not because I'm lost, but because I want to find something. It's not about cutting ties. It's about tying a knot tighter with your own soul. And here's the wild part. When you make that choice, you're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. You're stepping into a workshop where self-awareness, creativity, and inner strength get forged. This isn't some fluffy theory. It's a truth etched into the lives of people who've shaped the world. Think about the heavy hitters of history. Take Henry David Thoreau. Guy ditches the bustle of 19th century life, builds a cabin by Walden Pond, and spends 2 years alone with his thoughts. What comes out of it? A book that's still shaking up how we see simplicity and purpose 170 years later. Or Isaac Newton. While the plague locks everyone else in panic, he holes up in a quiet room and cracks the code of gravity. Gravity. The guy's alone, and he rewrites the laws of the universe. Even Frida Kahlo, painting through pain in her own little world, turns solitude into canvases that scream with life. These aren't stories of lonely rejects. They're stories of people who leaned into the quiet and came out with something unshakable. What's the common thread? Solitude wasn't their prison. It was their power. So why does this work? What's the alchemy that turns alone time into gold? It starts with the noise or the lack of it. When you're surrounded by people, it's like living in a storm of voices. Friends, family, strangers, screens, they're all shouting, nudging, pulling you this way and that. You're so busy reacting, you forget to think. But strip that away and suddenly, there's room. Room to hear your own voice, the one that's been drowned out by the chorus of everyone else's expectations. In solitude, you're not dodging texts or crafting comebacks. You're just there, face to face with your own mind. And yeah, that can be a little terrifying at first. No distractions, no buffers, just you. But stick with it and the magic kicks in. That's where self-awareness comes alive. Alone, you can't hide from the questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I want when no one's telling me what to want? What scares me? And why? It's like holding up a mirror you can't turn away from. You see the good stuff, the dreams you've buried, the strengths you've ignored, and the messy stuff too. The doubts, the flaws, the insecurities you've been papering over with busyness. It's not always pretty, but it's real. And in that raw, unfiltered space, you start to know yourself. Not the version you sell to the world, but the one that's been waiting to breathe. That's the foundation of strength. Knowing who you are, cracks and all, and standing tall anyway. Then there's creativity, the spark that solitude loves to fan into a flame. When you're alone, your mind gets to wander. No one's interrupting, no one's steering the conversation. It's just you and the open road of your imagination. Ever notice how your best ideas hit in the shower or on a long drive? That's solitude doing its thing. Giving your brain the freedom to roam, to connect dots, to dream up what's never been. History's littered with proof. Einstein daydreaming about riding light beams. Rowling sketching Harry Potter in a quiet cafe. The world's big breakthroughs didn't come from crowded rooms. They came from minds that had space to stretch. And you don't need to be a genius to tap that. Give yourself an hour alone, no agenda, and watch what bubbles up. It's not silence, it's a playground. But here's the real kicker. Solitude builds a strength that nothing can touch. When you're used to leaning on others, on their laughs, their nods, their "you've got this," you're borrowing courage. It's a loan that can get called in any time. A friend drifts away, a post flops, and suddenly you're wobbling. But when you've spent time alone, wrestling with your own shadows and coming out the other side, you've got something different. It's not borrowed, it's yours. A quiet, steady power that doesn't need a crowd to prop it up. You learn to trust your gut, to sit with discomfort, to find peace in your own skin. And once you've got that, no storm, big or small, can knock you over. So why do we run from it? Why does solitude sound like a four-letter word to so many of us? Blame the conditioning. Society spent years painting alone time as a punishment. Think go to your room or they died alone. We're wired to see it as failure, a sign we've missed the boat on connection. Add social media to the mix, and the pressure's relentless. Post, tag, share, repeat, or you're invisible. But what if that's the real con? What if the boat we're missing isn't the one packed with people, but the one that sails inward toward a deeper kind of richness? Solitude's not the enemy. It's the antidote to a world that's hooked on noise. Let's get practical for a minute, because this isn't just philosophy, it's a shift you can feel. Start small. Carve out 20 minutes today, no phone, no people, just you. Sit with it. Let your mind wander or let it wrestle with something big. Notice what comes up. Fear, boredom, a random idea, and don't flinch. That's the raw material of growth. Do it again tomorrow, maybe stretch it to 30. It's not about becoming a hermit. It's about building a muscle. The muscle of being okay on your own. Over time, you'll catch it. A flicker of calm. A steadiness that wasn't there before. That's solitude handing you the reins. And here's the twist. This doesn't make you antisocial. If anything, it makes you better with people. When you're solid in yourself, you don't cling to others for proof you're enough. You show up real, not rehearsed. The connections you do make, they're deeper, truer, because they're not filling a hole. They're adding to a foundation that's already there. Solitude doesn't isolate you. It equips you to stand tall, whether you're alone or in a crowd. So where does that leave us? Maybe it's time to rethink the script. The man on the hill, the woman in the cafe, the kid who skips the party, they're not missing out. They're tapping in. Solitude's not a shadow to dodge. It's a light to step into. It's where you meet yourself, sharpen your edges, and build a strength that no one can shake. History's giants knew it, and you can too. Next time the world gets loud, don't run toward it. Step away. Give yourself the gift of your own company and see what grows there. It's not loneliness waiting, it's power. Are you ready to claim it? Confidence from within. How solitude builds a strength no one can touch. Imagine a man standing alone in a storm. Rain's pounding, winds howling, but he's steady, feet planted, eyes clear, not a flicker of doubt on his face. The world's throwing everything at him, but he doesn't budge. What's keeping him upright? It's not a cheering crowd, a flood of likes, or a pat on the back from a friend. It's something quieter, something deeper, a confidence that doesn't need a witness to hold strong. Society tells us that kind of strength comes from being seen, from racking up applause and approval. But what if that's the wrong map? What if real, unbreakable confidence isn't borrowed from the outside, but forged in the moments when it's just you, alone with yourself? Let's step into that space and uncover a power most people never find. We've all been sold the same story. Confidence is a performance. You're confident when the room lights up for you, when the boss nods at your pitch, when your post goes viral, when the table laughs at your joke. It's a shiny badge you pin on, polished by other people's reactions. From the playground to the boardroom, we're taught to chase that glow. Collect enough friends, stack enough wins, and you'll feel unstoppable. But here's the catch. That kind of confidence is a house of cards. One gust, a snub, a silence, a lukewarm meh, and it's wobbling. You're left scrambling, tweaking, begging the crowd to prop you back up. Sound exhausting? It is. So what if there's another way? What if the truest confidence doesn't lean on anyone else, but rises from within when you dare to stand alone? That's where solitude comes in, not as a punishment, but as a proving ground. When you strip away the noise, the likes, the chatter, you're left with the raw material of you. No one's there to clap, no one's there to judge, just you and the quiet. First, it's a jolt. We're so used to the hum of other voices. Text alerts, small talk, scrolling feeds. That silence feels like a void. But stick with it and something shifts. In that stillness, you start to hear yourself. Not the you who's auditioning for the world, but the you who's been waiting to speak. And here's the magic. When you listen, you learn to trust that voice. That's the seed of a confidence that doesn't bend. Let's unpack this because it's not just a feel-good idea, it's a transformation. When you're alone, there's no safety net. No friend to hype you up, no follower count to lean on. It's you facing your thoughts, your fears, your questions. Maybe you sit with a choice. Should I take that risk? Chase that dream? And there's no one to bounce it off. So you dig in. You weigh it, wrestle it, feel it out. And when you decide, it's yours, no cosign needed. That's the first brick. Relying on yourself. Not because you've got it all figured out, but because you're willing to trust your own compass. Do that enough and you're not just guessing anymore, you're knowing. That's confidence with roots. Contrast that with the alternative. Picture the guy who's always got a crowd, phone buzzing, plans stacked, everyone's best buddy. He's riding high, feeding off the energy, the "you're the man" vibes. But take that away. Mute the group chat, clear the room, and what's left? Too often, it's a flicker of panic. He's so used to the echo of approval that silence feels like a threat. His confidence? It's a loan, not an asset, borrowed from the people around him, due back the second they drift. Now look at the one who's spent time alone. No crowd, no buzz, and he's still standing. Why? Because his strength isn't rented, it's built. It's his, forged in the hours. He didn't need anyone else to tell him he's enough. This isn't new, history's littered with proof. Think about Nelson Mandela, locked in a cell for years on Robben Island. No cheering masses, no spotlight, just him and four walls. Did he crumble? No, he sharpened his resolve, honed his vision, came out a force that toppled a system. Or take Emily Dickinson, scribbling poems in her Amherst room, barely sharing them with a soul. Her confidence wasn't in the applause. She got none. But in the quiet certainty of her own words. These weren't people leaning on the world. They were people leaning into themselves. Solitude didn't break them, it made them unbreakable. So what's the alchemy here? How does being alone turn into this kind of steel? It starts with shedding the crutches. When you're surrounded, it's easy to outsource your worth. Friends say you're great, so you feel great. A post flops, so you feel small. But alone, those props vanish. You're forced to stand on your own 2 feet, to find your balance without a hand to grab. It's shaky at first. Doubt creeps in, old insecurities whisper. But push through and you realize something, you don't fall. You wobble, sure, but you're still there. And every time you don't collapse, you stack another brick. You learn you can handle the quiet, the questions, the storms because you've done it before. That's confidence that doesn't need a megaphone. Then there's the clarity. In solitude, the fog of other people's opinions lifts. No one's nudging you to be louder, softer, funnier, whatever. You get to see yourself straight. No filters, no distortions. What do you like? What do you hate? What fires you up when no one's watching? It's like wiping a steamed-up mirror. You finally see the lines of your own face. And the more you know that face, the less you need someone else to draw it for you. That's where the solidity kicks in. Confidence rooted in self-understanding, not applause. It's not loud or flashy. It's a quiet, "I've got this," that hums under your skin. But let's be real, why do we dodge this? Why does solitude feel like a leap most of us won't take? It's fear, plain and simple. We're scared of what we'll find when the crowd thins out. What if I'm not enough without the hype? What if I don't like who's staring back? Society's drilled it into us. Alone means weak. Alone means lost. Add the constant ping of social media, where every second's a chance to be validated, and stepping away feels like dropping off the grid. But here's the lie we've swallowed. That confidence comes from the outside in. Flip that. It's the other way around. The world can't give you what you don't already claim for yourself. So how do you start? It's not about vanishing into the woods, though that works for some. Simpler, take a beat. Next time you're reaching for your phone to fill a quiet moment, don't. Sit with it. Let the itch of "I need something" fade. Ask yourself something real. What do I think about this? What do I want next? And listen. No rush, no audience, just you. Do it again tomorrow, maybe for longer. It's not instant. Confidence like this builds slow, like a tree growing rings. But you'll feel it. A steadiness that doesn't flinch when the likes dry up or the room goes silent. That's you relying on you. Here's the beauty. This doesn't make you a loner. It makes you free. When your confidence isn't tied to the crowd, you're not a slave to it. You can walk into a party, a meeting, a fight, and not need the win to feel whole. The opinions still come, praise, criticism, whatever, but they don't own you. They're just noise, not your backbone. And the people in your life, you don't clutch them like a lifeline, you enjoy them because you're already standing. That's the paradox. Solitude doesn't push the world away. It lets you meet it on your terms. So picture that man in the storm again. He's not waiting for rescue, not scanning for a thumbs up. He's there, rooted, because he's spent enough time alone to know he can weather it. That's the confidence we're chasing. Not the kind that sparkles for a second and fades, but the kind that holds when everything else drops away. Society's wrong about this one. You don't need a chorus to sing your worth. You need a mirror, a quiet room, and the guts to look. Start there, and the rest? It's just weather wild, loud, but nothing you can't face. Are you ready to stop leaning and start standing? Quality over quantity. Why a small circle might be your greatest strength. Picture this. A guy's at a party, surrounded by a dozen people, all laughing, clinking glasses, tossing compliments his way. His phone's buzzing, texts, tags, invites piling up. He's the center of the storm, grinning like he's won the lottery. Now shift the scene. Another man sits across town, just 3 friends around a quiet table. No crowd, no clamor, but their words carry weight. Real talk, no fluff. Who's richer? Society's got a loud answer. The guy with the entourage, the big tally of friends. But what if that's a hollow prize? What if the real strength, the kind that anchors you when life gets rough, lives in a smaller circle? One built on trust, respect, and something deeper than a head count. Let's unravel this paradox and see why less might just be more. We've all heard the script. More is better. More followers, more likes, more names in your contacts. It's the yardstick of success. From schoolyards to social feeds, we're taught to measure our worth by the size of our tribe. The kid with the biggest posse ruled recess. The adult with the packed weekend wins the bragging rights. It's a numbers game, and we're conditioned to play hard, collect people like trophies, stack them high, and call it connection. But here's the question gnawing at the edges. How many of those friends really know you? How many would sit with you in the dark, not just the spotlight? Maybe the secure man isn't the one with 100 hands to shake, but the one with a few he can truly hold. Let's peel this back, because the difference between quantity and quality isn't just a feel-good saying, it's a lifeline. A big social circle looks dazzling. Busy nights, full chats, a buzz that keeps you floating. But dig beneath the surface, and what's there? Small talk that schemes the top, laughs that don't land deep, bonds that bend when the wind blows. You're juggling, keeping up with birthdays, dodging drama, nodding through stories you've heard 10 times. It's a full-time gig, and the paycheck's thin. A surface glow that fades when the party's over. Studies say we're wired for connection, sure, but they also say the average person can only maintain about 5 close relationships. 5. So what's the other 95% of that big circle doing? Filling space, not your soul. Now picture the flip side. A handful of friends, maybe 3 or 4 who get you. Not the polished you post online, but the real one, the one who's messy, quiet, loud, raw. These aren't people you impress. They're people you trust. They've seen you at your worst. Sobbing, ranting, lost, and stayed. They call you out when you're off, cheer you on when you're up, and don't flinch either way. That's not a crowd, that's a fortress. A small circle like that doesn't just hang around. It holds you up. It's not about how many, it's about how deep. And that depth, that's where security lives. So what makes these bonds different? It's the ingredients. Trust, respect, shared values. Trust is the bedrock. You can crack open your chest, spill your fears, and know they won't bolt or blab. Respect keeps it steady. They don't shrink you to fit their box or puff you up to stroke their ego. They see you clear and let you stand tall. And shared values? That's the glue, common ground on what matters. Whether it's loyalty, honesty, or chasing a dream, 100 shallow ties can't touch that. They're a pond, wide but thin. Pretty to look at, useless when you're parched. A few real ones? That's a well, narrow, maybe, but deep enough to sustain you. Let's test this with a scene. Say life hits hard, job's gone, heart's cracked, everything's spinning. The guy with the big circle calls out. Texts fly, "Hey, you okay?" Pings roll in. A few show up, sure, but most fade fast. Busy, distracted, onto the next shiny thing. The noise dies down, and he's left with echoes. Now the guy with the small circle? He calls his three. One's there with coffee before he hangs up. Another's listening, no platitudes, just ears. The third's plotting how to fix it because they're in it, not just watching. That's not a coincidence, it's the math of quality. 100 hands wave, a few grab hold. Which one keeps you standing? History backs this up. Look at the greats. Jesus didn't roll with 1,000 disciples. He had 12, and even then, 3 Peter, James, John were his core. They weren't there for the show. They were there for the weight. Or take Einstein, brilliant, sure, but his closest circle was tight. A wife, a few peers who could keep up. He didn't need a fan club. He needed minds that matched his. These weren't people chasing clout. They picked their people with purpose. And us? We don't need to rewrite physics, but we can borrow the blueprint. A small, solid crew beats a sprawling, shaky one every time. So why do we keep chasing the big tally? Fear's a big piece. We're scared of looking small, of missing out, of the whisper that says loner if our dance card's not full. Society's relentless. Network, mingle, build your brand. Social media's the amplifier. Every friend's a notch, every follow's a flex. Step back and you're invisible, or so they tell us. But here's the flip. That pressure's a trap. 100 shallow ties don't make you secure. They make you a juggler, one slip from a crash. A few deep ones, that's a root system. Quiet, steady, holding you firm when the storm hits. This isn't about snubbing people, it's about choosing wisely. Think of it like curating a playlist. You don't cram in every song. You pick the ones that hit right. A secure person doesn't hoard friends, they sift. They ask, does this lift me? Challenge me? Fit me? If not, it's noise, not nourishment. That takes guts. Saying no to the extra invite, letting the casuals drift, keeping your circle tight. But the payoff's huge. Relationships that don't just float, they anchor. You're not stretched thin, playing catch-up with a dozen half-ties. You're locked in, free to go deep with the few who matter. Let's get real for a second. How does this play out? Next time you're scrolling your contacts, count. How many would you call at 3 a.m.? No hesitation? How many know the stuff you don't post? The doubts, the wins, the weird quirks. That's your circle right there. Not the 200 friends from high school. Not the coworkers you nod at. The handful who'd show up, no questions. If that list's short, don't sweat it. That's not a loss. That's a win. A small circle isn't a sign you've failed. It's proof you've prioritized. And if it's empty, start building one real bond at a time, not a scattershot grab for numbers. Here's the kicker. This doesn't just feel good, it grows you. A tight crew of quality people isn't static. It's a forge. They sharpen you, calling out your blind spots, pushing your edges, reflecting your worth when you forget it. 100 shallow nods won't do that. They'll clap and move on. But a few who see you, they're mirrors and hammers, showing you who you are, shaping who you could be. That's not just support, that's fuel. You don't need a stadium cheering. You need a corner that's solid. And when you've got that, the rest, the trends, the chatter fades to static. So why's this secure? Because it's yours, not a fragile web that snaps when the crowd thins. A small circle doesn't sway with every breeze. It's a rock you stand on. You're not chasing approval from the masses, you've got it from the few who count. That frees you up. No performing, no juggling, just being. And when life tests you, because it will, that depth holds. You're not scrambling for a lifeline. You've already got it, woven tight with trust and respect. That's not a gamble. That's a guarantee. Let's flip the lens one last time. The party guy with the dozen? He's loud, he's lit, but he's fragile, tied to a buzz that can fade. The quiet table with three. They're steady, rooted, real. Society's wrong about this. Security isn't a head count. It's a heartbeat. A small circle of deep ties doesn't just keep you company. It keeps you whole. So next time you're tempted to tally up friends like points, pause. Ask, who's in my well, not my pond? Trim the fat, tend the core, and watch what grows. It's not about having less. It's about having more of what matters. Are you ready to stop counting and start connecting? Facing social pressure, how standing your ground sets you free. Imagine this. You're at a crowded bar, lights flashing, voices overlapping, your phone buzzing with a dozen. Where you at? Texts. Everyone's plugged in, laughing, posting, clinking glasses like it's a race to prove they're living. You feel it, the pull to jump in, to match the pace, to be part of the pulse. Society's screaming it from every corner. Stay connected, keep up, don't miss out. But what if that current's dragging you under? What if the real win isn't blending into the hum, but stepping back to hear your own beat? We're told peace comes from a full calendar and a packed feed, but maybe it's the opposite. Maybe holding your identity and drawing lines in the sand is what guards your calm and carves out your freedom. Let's peel back the pressure and see what's really at play. From the jump, we're wired for this game. As kids, we're nudged into playdates, team sports, lunch tables. Alone's a red flag, a whisper of something's wrong. Fast forward, and it's the same tune, just louder. High school's a popularity contest. More friends, more cred. Adulthood swaps cliques for networks. LinkedIn connections, Instagram follows, a revolving door of, hey, let's grab drinks. Society's script is clear, your values tied to how plugged in you are. Step off the grid, and you're a ghost, irrelevant, forgotten, a shadow in a world that's always on. It's relentless. A tidal wave pushing you to link up, show up, keep the chatter going. But here's the crack in the facade. What's all that noise really giving you? Let's zoom in, because this pressure's a machine with gears we rarely notice. You're scrolling, and every post's a billboard, parties you weren't at, trips you didn't take, lives shinier than yours. Guilt creeps in, I should be out there. At work, it's team player vibes. Say yes to every happy hour or you're the odd one out. Even family piles on. Skip a call, and it's you never check in. Then there's the digital leash. A friend texts, you don't reply fast enough, and the you okay? Turns into why re you ghosting? It's a 24/7 demand to be available, agreeable, there. And if you don't, the whispers start, you're selfish, aloof, weird. That's the weight. A world that equates your worth with how much you pour into its buzz. Now, feel that for a second. It's heavy, right? Like you're swimming upstream, fighting a current that won't quit. Every yes to the crowd's a nod to fit in, but it's also a chip off your own shape. You're bending, laughing at stuff that's not funny, nodding to opinions you don't buy, chasing plans that drain you dry. Why? Because the pressure says stopping's failure. It's a treadmill, run, 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 but you're not going anywhere. You're just tired, stretched thin, a version of yourself that's more crowd than core. And the peace you're chasing? The slipping further with every lap. But what if you stepped off? Picture this. A woman says no to the 5th invite this month. She's not rude, she's just done. She sits home, lights low, no phone, just her and a book. The world's spinning out there, but she's still calm, steady, her own. Society might call her a recluse, a dropout. But look closer. Her eyes are clear, her breath's even. She's not running. She's rooted. That's not weakness, that's a rebellion. She's holding her ground, guarding her space, and in that quiet, she's free. Free from the tug, the guilt, the need to be everyone's yes. That's the twist. Peace doesn't come from plugging in. It comes from pulling back. So how do you get there? It's not about torching your life and bolting to a cave, though some days that tempts. It's about two things. Knowing who you are and setting lines no one crosses. First, the knowing. Society's loud. It'll drown you out if you let it. But carve out a minute, alone, no noise, and ask, what's me in this mess? What do I value when the crowd's not cheering? Maybe it's honesty over hype, depth over dazzle, quiet over clamor. That's your compass, not a borrowed map, but yours. It's not static. It shifts as you grow. But once you've got it, it's your North Star, guiding you when the pressure pulls. Then come the boundaries, your shield. This is where the rubber hits the road, because knowing yourself's one thing, defending it's another. Boundaries sound soft, self-care buzzword stuff, but they're steel. It's saying no to the party that'll sap you, later to the text you don't owe, not my thing, to the trend everyone's on. It's picking your yes, time, energy, people based on what fits you, not the script. Sounds simple, but it's a fight. People push back. Guilt trips, eye rolls. Come on, just this once. But every no you hold is a brick in your wall, a stake in your peace. You're not shutting out the world, you're curating it. Let's see this in action. Say your phone pings, group chat, big plans. You in, old you jumps, FOMO's a beast. New you pauses. Do I want this? Or do I just not want to miss it? So Friday, you're fried. A night in's calling. So you type, not this time, catch you later. The push comes. Really? It'll be fun. But you stick. Nah, I'm good. End of story. No spiral, no second guessing. You're not rude. You're real. That's a boundary holding, small, sure. But it's power. You've kept your space, you're calm, you're you. Do that enough and the pressure starts to bounce off. History's got receipts on this. Look at Socrates. Guy wandered Athens, questioning everything, pissing people off left and right. He didn't bend to the crowd's roar. He stuck to his truth, even when it cost him. Or Rosa Parks, saying no to a seat wasn't just defiance. It was a line drawn from knowing her worth. These weren't people swaying with the wind. They stood firm, identity intact, boundaries sharp. They didn't need the world's nod. They had their own. And us? We're not all sparking revolutions, but we can borrow the playbook. Hold your ground, and the noise loses its grip. So why's this hard? Fear's the anchor, we're scared of the fallout. What if they ditch me? What if I fade out? Society's trained us. Disconnect, and you're done. Add the digital hum. Every ping's a plea to stay in, and pulling back feels like treason. But here's the lie. Peace isn't in the crowd. It's in the clear. Every time you cave to the pressure, you're trading a piece of yourself for a pat on the head. Hold firm and you're keeping what's yours, your calm, your freedom, your spine. It's not isolation. It's integrity. Let's get practical. How do you start? Next time the pull hits, invite, text, be here, stop, breathe, check your compass. Does this fit me? If not, draw the line. Thanks, but I'm out. No essay, no grovel, just clean. Expect the pushback. It's coming, but don't flinch. You're not apologizing for existing your way. Stack those moments. Skip the scroll, mute the noise, say no when it's no, and watch what builds. A quiet that's yours, not borrowed. The slow, not sexy, but it's real. You're not dodging life, you're claiming it. Here's the payoff. This doesn't just shield you, it shines. When you stop bending, you glow different. People notice, not the swarm, maybe, but the ones who get it. You draw real ties, not forced ones, because you're not a chameleon anymore, you're you. And the pressure? It fades to static. You're not swimming against it. You're above it, free to move, think, be. That's not retreat, that's release. So picture that woman again, alone with her book. She's not hiding. She's holding. The world's out there, loud as ever, but she's here, whole. Society says connect or collapse. She says no, I'll stand. That's the strength we're after. Not a packed room, but a steady core. Next time the wave hits, don't ride it, step back. Guard your peace, draw your lines, and see what stays when the tide pulls out. It's not less, it's everything. Are you ready to stop drowning and start breathing? Redefining security, what makes a man truly unshakable. Picture this. A man stands on a cliff's edge, waves crashing below, storm clouds rolling in. The wind's fierce, the drop's steep, but he's still shoulders square, gaze steady, not a tremor in his stance. Around him, the world's a mess. Chaos, noise, voices shouting what he should be. But he doesn't flinch. What's holding him there? It's not a crowd cheering his name, not a flood of followers or a packed room of friends. It's something quieter, something forged deep inside. Calm in the face of turmoil, integrity that doesn't bend, a knowing of himself that no storm can shake. Society says security's a tally. More buddies, more clout, more noise. But what if that's a hollow metric? What if the real measure of a secure man isn't how loud his life is, but how steady he stands when it all falls apart? Let's rewrite this rulebook and see what security really looks like. We've been fed a blueprint since day one. A man's worth is his posse. The playground king had the biggest crew, high fives all around. Everyone knew his name. High school flipped it to status, cool crowd, loud laughs, a trail of admirers. Adulthood's no different. Swap the lockers for LinkedIn, the cafeteria for cocktail hours, but the game's the same. Stack friends, rack up fame, and you're golden. Society's megaphone blares it. Security's a numbers game. The more people clapping, the safer you are. Untouchable, unbreakable, a fortress of popularity. But here's the fracture in that fairy tale. When the lights dim and the crowd scatters, what's left? If your strength's tied to the head count, what happens when the room empties? Let's crack this open because the math doesn't add up. Picture the guy with the big circle. Phone's a hotline, weekend's a blur, always someone to call. He's the life of every party, name dropped in every chat. Secure, right? Maybe until the tide turns. Job's gone, money's tight, or worse, he stumbles. Says the wrong thing, misses a beat. Suddenly, the text's slow, the invite's thin, the claps fade to crickets. That's the catch. A security built on others is a loan, not a lock. It's shiny, sure, but it's shaky. Here today, gone when the wind shifts. Now flip the lens. A man with a handful of ties or none faces the same storm. No buzz, no backup, but he's calm. Why? His foundation's not borrowed, it's his own. So what's this other kind of security? It's not loud or flashy, it doesn't need a stage. It's a man who meets life's punches with a steady breath, who holds his line when the pressure mounts, who knows himself so well he doesn't need a mirror held up by anyone else. This isn't about fame or friend lists. It's about facing the mess of living with grace and guts. Calm when the world's spinning, integrity when it's easier to fold, self-awareness when the easy out's denial. That's the steel we're missing when we chase the crowd's roar. It's not a tally, it's a tempering. A strength that holds when everything else cracks. Let's paint this clearer. Life's a grinder. It'll throw loss, doubt, betrayal, failure, all at once if it feels like it. The secure guy by society's count might lean on his crew, calls in favors, vents to the masses, rides the wave of, "You've got this." But what if they're busy? What if they bail? His armor's thin, cracks show fast. Now take the man who's redefined it. Same storm hits, job's toast, heart's bruised, odds stacked. He doesn't scramble for a lifeline. He sits with it, breathes, thinks, stands. Not because he's cold, but because he's steady. He's faced himself enough to know he'll bend, not break. That's not bravado, that's bedrock. What builds this? First, calm. It's the anchor. Life's loud. Bills, fights, deadlines screaming. But a secure man doesn't match the pitch. He's not numb. He feels it all, but he doesn't let it rule. How? He's practiced. Alone in the quiet, where there's no one to perform for. He sat with chaos before. Not running, not drowning, just sitting, and learned it passes. That's not weakness. That's training. Next, integrity, the spine. It's easy to sway. Lie a little, dodge a truth, follow the herd. But he doesn't. He holds his word, his values, even when it stings. Why? Because he's not playing for applause. He's playing for himself. Last, self-knowing, the compass. He's dug into his own dirt. Flaws, fears, fire, and mapped it. He doesn't need a crowd to tell him who he is. He's already met the man in the mirror. History's got giants who lived this. Think Lincoln. Guys leading a fractured nation. Half the country hates him. Wars tearing everything apart. Friends? A few. Fame? More like infamy. But he's calm. Writes his own speeches, weighs his calls, holds his course. Integrity? Signs the Emancipation Proclamation when it could have sunk him. Self-awareness? Knew his temper, his melancholy, and wrestled them quiet. Or Gandhi? Skinny, soft-spoken, no army, no spotlight half the time. Yet he faces empires with a stillness that shakes them. A truth that doesn't budge. A self he's honed through years of reflection. These men weren't secure by head count. They were secure by heart. So why do we cling to the old yardstick? Fear's the hook. We're scared silence means sinking. Society's drilled it deep. No friends, no fame, no safety net, you're toast. Social media's the fuel. Every like's a lifeline. Every follow's a float. Step away and it's like you're erased. But here's the con. That net's full of holes. Catches you till it doesn't. Then you're free-falling, grasping at ghosts. The real net's inside, woven from facing yourself, not fleeing to the crowd. A man who's calm, true, and known to himself doesn't need the weave of others. He's already whole. Let's ground this. How does it look? Storm hits, say, a betrayal. The popular guy's reeling. Texts the squad. Posts the vague trusts dead rant. Waits for the sorry man flood. Comes, it goes, he's still raw. The redefined man? He's gutted too, but he steps back. Sits alone, lets it burn, asks, "What's this teaching me?" He doesn't rant. He reflects. He doesn't fold. He holds. Maybe cuts the tie, maybe forgives, but it's his call, not the mob's. Calm steadies him. Integrity guides him. Self-knowing lights the way. He's not unscathed, he's unshaken. How do you build it? Start where it's hard. Alone. Next time life swings, big or small, don't run to the phone. Sit. Feel the weight. Panic, anger, whatever, and don't flinch. Breathe through it. It's not forever. That's calm growing. Then hold your line. Say what's true, do what's right, even if it's lonely. That's integrity stacking. Last, look inward. What do I want here? What's me, not them? And listen. That's self-knowing rooting. It's not instant. It's layers, slow, steady, yours. Each test adds a ring like a tree toughening with seasons. Here's the twist. This doesn't dim you, it glows. A man secure in himself isn't hiding. He's present. People feel it, not the swarm, maybe, but the ones who matter. He's not begging for nods. He's offering something real, quiet strength, straight talk, a steadiness that pulls like gravity. The world's still loud. Fame's still a siren, but he's not swayed. He's not chasing, he's standing. And when the storms come, because they will, he's not scrambling for cover. He's the cliff, not the waves. So rethink that picture. The man on the edge isn't propped by a posse or a spotlight. He's there, alone, because he's enough. Calm when it rages, true when it tempts, known when it doubts. Society's wrong. Security's not a tally of heads or headlines. It's a measure of heart. How you face the grind with grace, hold your ground with guts, know your soul when the noise dies. Next time life tests you, don't count the hands reaching, check the one you've built inside. That's the real score. Are you ready to stop tallying and start standing? So here we are, at the edge of a truth most people never dare to touch. We've walked through the noise, peeled back the lies, and stared down the storm together. Society's been shouting one thing. Security and strength come from the crowd. More friends, more likes, more proof you're somebody. But what if the real power, the kind that holds you steady when the world shakes, isn't out there at all? What if it's been inside you this whole time, waiting in the quiet, ready to bloom the moment you stop running? That's the challenge I'm laying at your feet today. Don't fear solitude. Welcome it. See it not as a void, but as a forge. A chance to grow, to know yourself, to build a strength that no one can take away. This isn't about shutting the world out. It's about tuning in to what's real. Start small. Carve out a moment today, just you, no distractions. Sit with your thoughts. Feel your own pulse. Ask, who am I when no one's watching? Let that be your anchor, not the buzz of a notification or the weight of a guest list. Focus on your worth, the kind that doesn't need a vote to stand tall. And when it comes to relationships, stop counting heads. Start weighing hearts. Seek the few who see you, who challenge you, who stay when the lights go low. Quality over quantity isn't just a catchphrase, it's a lifeline. Trade the shallow pond for the deep well, and watch how it holds you up. In the end, this video's been about one truth. Real security, real strength, doesn't come from the applause or the size of your circle. It's born in the quiet of self-understanding, nurtured by connections that matter, rooted in a core that's yours alone. You don't need the world to sign off on your value. You need the courage to claim it yourself. So take that step. Embrace the solitude, not as a retreat, but as a rising. Build your life not on what's loud, but on what's lasting. This is your power, your peace, your path. Will you walk it? And to every single one of you in the ZenLight 8 family who's made it this far, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for sticking with me through this journey, for opening your mind, for giving me your time. You're not just viewers, you're seekers, builders, souls chasing something deeper. It means the world to share this space with you, to grow alongside you. If this hit home, don't let it end here. Drop a comment, share it with someone who needs it, and let's keep this spark alive. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we've got more to uncover together. Until next time, stay true, stay strong, and keep shining your light. You've got this.